for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everybody. Anybody signed up for public comment tonight? No public comment. Okay, and we have a presentation this evening from KMEA Minska. Come on, introduce yourself. Yeah.
My name is Tyson McGreer, if you remember me from, I think, about a year ago.
A year ago, yeah.
So, Tyson McGreer, manager of member services. Got my partner in crime up here, Neil Daney. He's going to be helping us out with half the presentation. So, kind of going to go through a little history who KMEA is. A lot of you, I think, went through some of this, so I'll be fairly brief on that portion, and then let Neil kind of take over on the actual solar opportunity that we've got. That a lot of the members are just now signing up for. So, kind of go through, Neil. Do we want to share the presentation, or do you have it?
I mean, we have it, but if you want to share it on there, that's fine too.
Looks like we can see it, Neil. So, kind of get started. First slide is just who we are. We are a municipal organization formed by municipalities. We were formed in 1980 with the goal of getting communities access to power supply. At that time, it was a coal plant, but now it's many other things: wind, solar, a natural gas plant, coal plants, hydro, all of that sort of stuff. So we are literally every corner of the state, from out here in Goodland, clear down to the southeast portion. We've got 88 members so far, and we've got a sister agency on the gas side that the municipality owns their own gas system. We can procure gas for them, and also we sell gas to several of our member power plants. So,
hey Tyson, could you check the mic, make sure that it's on for me, please? Sorry about that.
Good?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
We gonna start over?
No.
Kind of moving forward, some of the services we offer, obviously our main service is power supply and power supply planning for our members. We've got about 44 of those 88 members that we do their entire power supply planning for. And then the other members are similar to Goodland right now, where we do maybe the WAPA, or you've got access, or they're just members. Maybe use Mid-States Energy Works to do some engineering and construction work, that sort of thing. So I won't go through all these, but here's a lot of the things we do. Again, primarily is power supply, but a lot of the soft stuff we do. Something recent in the last 3 or 4 years, we purchased Mid-States, who Mid-States has done work for you guys for a long, long time. KMEA purchased that very same missions. Now we're doing rate studies. I think Darren has helped you guys with a rate study or two in the past. So we've got a new in-house legal attorney, so she helps a lot of cities with these types of contracts too. So kind of how we're structured on the power supply. We've got 3 energy management projects is what we call them, primarily regional or in the transmission provider in that area. So we've got EMP1 primarily in the Kansas City metro area. Evergy is the transmission provider. EMP2, which is kind of out west, the Sunflower Cities, which would be if Goodland became part of an EMP, that would likely be where you would fit regionally, is in the EMP2 group. And then we've got the EMP3 group, and Eudora is EMP3 is kind of central region of Kansas. Again, a lot of Evergy transmission cities there. So again, we do all of their power supply. Each EMP is, we bid their energy needs into the market based on those groups. One nice thing as well, your power plant if you're long capacity, or you can sell that into that EMP group because there's cities within that group that need to buy capacity. So we can trade capacity back and forth within that group. So optimize the value of cities that have power plants and help out the cities that need that capacity. So kind of moving forward, the projects that we do help you with really right now is primarily the mid-state side on your power plant, helping you with projects there. And then the WAPA out of Colorado, we manage that for you and optimize that project, which is a really great product that you'll have for, I think, until 2054. So very good hydro project. Again, we highlighted the EMP2. If you were to come in and have us manage your power supply entirely, you would be a part of that EMP2 group. So, and we hold monthly meetings with that group, talk about power supply, what the markets are doing, all that stuff on a monthly basis. So, okay. Just something to keep in mind. I won't spend a lot of time going through this. There are three main components to your power supply. So as Neil goes through the back end of the presentation, just keep in mind there's really three prongs to a power supply cost. One is the capacity or demand. You're meeting a lot of that with your power plant, so a very valuable asset there. The actual energy, so the cost of a kilowatt for your community, and then the transmission, so the cost that it costs you to get that energy to your system. So those are the three main stools or pegs on the stool. So one little slide, just so you're aware, we are part of the SPP market. If you can see on that map, they control basically the bulk electric system, all the resources, and the daily market, day-ahead market for that entire region. So Winter Storm Uri, if you guys remember that hit that whole region, so resources become very, very scarce during those times. SPP is the one that's trying to balance that grid and keep the grid whole. So they may be turning on assets on the eastern part of the state to help out different areas around that area. So again, just kind of going through what KMEA does from an energy management and energy management services. So we bid in your resources or your demands every day. So we would take what your expected load is for tomorrow. By 9 o'clock this morning, we would have bid that into the market or bought that out of the market for tomorrow's prices. So we manage that every day, and then that gets balanced basically by the minute in real time, the difference. So that could get really into the weeds. I think we talked a little bit about that a year or so ago when we went through the 101. So again, I won't spend a lot of time. We also administer all the SPP transactions for you guys, and then optimize, anything in the power plant. And then also we have 24/7. If your engines were bid into the market, SPP could call on you for economic or reliability reasons. So we manage that traffic back and forth. So we would actually call the power plant and say, hey, SPP is requesting you run for 4 hours this afternoon to help support, either the grid by economics or reliability. Yep. So those are a lot of the things we do daily when we manage your power supply. And then long term, obviously, we're looking at these long term contracts and how we layer in those opportunities. So, okay. Any questions so far? That was just kind of who we are, what we do. Yeah. We really are. We're here for the members because we're owned by the members. So you have a seat on the board. Dustin's gracious enough to be on our exec board. So we act very much like a city council. So kind of with that, I'm going to turn the next portion over to Neil to kind of go through the LMP stuff and then the actual Nenasko Flats solar opportunity and what that looks like and what that does look like for your power supply. So,
thank you, Tyson.
Thanks, Tyson. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm having a hard time hearing on this end, but there was questions, put them in the chat, or maybe Tyson can relay them to me. But basically, that map that we just showed of Southwest Power Pool has about 1,200 pricing nodes all throughout that area that's in kind of yellow there. And the ones that are starred are EMP 1 on the east side of the state, EMP 3 in the center part of the state, and the EMP 2 on the western side of the state. And then the star that has the red box around it is where this large-scale solar project that we'll talk about here in a few minutes, where that's located, west of Wichita, about 80, 90 miles. So, what KMEA does as a function is no different than what kind of Evergy does or Sunflower does on a daily basis, where we'll go in on behalf of our members, look at their forecasted load, offer resources into the market that are offered, that we have registered, and then we're going to bid our load in just like Evergy would do on a daily basis, or Sunflower. But we're a small organization, obviously about 400 megawatts that we manage compared to 5,000 megawatts on the energy side. But that's kind of what we do is go in if you did assign with KMEA instead of Sunflower bidding your load like they do today, KMEA would bid in your load predominantly in the day-ahead market. And I'll spend just a minute talking about this locational marginal price. If all the resources are on in Southwest Power Pool, and Sunflower has all the resources on, and Evergy has all the resources on, all the Oklahoma utilities and North Dakota and South Dakota utilities have all the resources on, and there is no congestion, then the pricing at these locational marginal prices, or we call them LMPs, are virtually the same. The problem is you have transmission congestion, which prevents that generation, that really cheap generation that's being supplied in South Dakota to make it to Kansas. So then you have congestion. And that's really what separates the pricing across Southwest Power Pool, is that congestion. Another thing that is a smaller component is the loss component. So anytime you're transmitting energy across transmission lines, you lose some of the energy that's being moved. And so you have the energy component, you have the loss component, and then you have the congestion component. Those three things make up the LMP, what we call the locational marginal price. Moving on to the large-scale solar projects. Again, kind of the star marks the spot about 70 miles west of Wichita. And this is a 200 megawatt large scale facility, single access tracker. Its anticipated COD is right around January of 2027 or late 2026. KMEA has signed on for up to 90 megawatts. It looks like we're probably going to be somewhere in that 75 megawatt range, with about 30 cities across the state of Kansas signing on. The expected capacity factor is around 27%, and that's just because the sun is only available a certain amount of time of the year, and whenever the sun is shining, this facility will be producing energy, but it's only about 27% of the time, given the fact that there's not that many sunny days and that many days where actually the sun is up. So it comes out to about a quarter of the time you get with the generation from this facility. With this facility, you get capacity. You guys are able to claim the WAPA capacity and all the capacity that you guys have from your internal generation. You can claim 100% of that. With this facility, whatever you subscribe to, you'll be able to accredit 40 to 50%. So if you sign on for a 3 megawatt allocation, you'll be able to claim 1.5 megawatts. And that comes at no additional cost. That just comes with the signing on to the project. The price is fixed at $50 per megawatt hour for 30 years. Does not include the renewable energy credits. Kansas currently doesn't have RPS for municipalities or co-ops, so in order to lower the BPA price, that was a negotiating piece that we had in there. The developer is maintaining the RECs, renewable energy credits. Technically, in order to claim that you are green, then the renewable energy credits have to go along with the project. Since we have no renewable portfolio standard here in the state of Kansas, again, we exchanged a lower price PPA for them to maintain the RECs. So what this product does for a member city, a 3 megawatt allocation is roughly 14 to 15% of the city of Goodland's annual energy needs, but these are all premium hours when this facility is producing. So these are generally the most expensive hours that you would see on a daily or monthly or annual basis. The on-peak hours, which are going to be typically Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday, the facility will be producing as long as the sun is shining. And those are typically going to be your most expensive hours throughout the year. Today, as you can probably see on your bill, gas prices are extremely low, and subsequently, market prices are low. In 2022, however, during high gas prices, peaking power from the market was in the $60 to $80 range. And then today, with lower natural gas prices, it's in that $30 to $50 range. And that really just kind of bounces around. A lot of things that go into that. What we're hearing from our suppliers is that there's a lot of coal retirement that's taking place, not only in Kansas but across the United States. And it's not really being replaced with like in kind. It's being replaced with renewables, wind and solar and battery storage, which you can't just turn those on whenever you need, like a coal-fired plant or a gas-fired plant. So that, along with the artificial intelligence load growth, data centers, energy policies that I just kind of mentioned with the coal plant retirements, are all kind of driving up the fixed energy market. And so we're seeing prices double of what they were just 4 or 5 years ago, before COVID, before supply chain issues, before this AI growth, before the geopolitical issues that hit us just recently overseas. So it doesn't look like there's any relief really in sight until we get more fossil fuel built. Doesn't look like there's going to be any more coal being built across Southwest Power Pool. But we are seeing interest in small modular nuclear, which is a technology that's got a lot of press, but really in large-scale application, it's not there yet. But we are seeing Evergy and a lot of other utilities invest in some combined cycle and simple cycle gas. So that's ultimately what's going to help slow this rapid increase in prices, capacity prices, and energy prices. We're going to get more reliable fuel online. So, Dustin, Kent, and Tyson and I have just kicked around, different ideas on what would a portfolio look like if you were under the KMEA umbrella. And it's really a la carte. It's really whatever you want it to look like, or whatever products you want it to have in it. And the term of the contract is completely up to you too. We have some cities that do 2-3 year agreements. We have some, and predominantly a lot of our cities will do 8 to 10 year agreements, just because you want that security, and when you're doing your long-term budget forecast, you want to have something in there you kind of hang your hat on for energy prices. And so most of the time, we'll see member cities that tend to lean towards the longer time frame that 8 to 10 years. We looked at some various products and various things that might fit the city of Goodland. And one of the things we looked at is a 5x16 product. And that would basically be a product that we go to the market, like an Evergy or a marketer that plays in the energy arena, and they would give you a fixed price, let's say $65 for to cover you for Monday through Friday from 6 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. And that would cover, by looking at this pie chart, that would cover around 40% of your annual energy needs. And then if you participate in a large-scale solar project for 3 megawatts, that would add another 14-15% of your portfolio. You guys have your WAPA that we currently administer. That represents about 5% of your annual energy needs. And then the purple part of the pie chart is the SPP market exposure, which again, most of the time, I would say 98% of the time, it's good to lean on the least cost resources in the footprint. There's that 2% of the time where it can get a little dicey in the summer and in the winter. But the city of Goodland, you guys have your units there with backstop, so it's okay to take on a little bit market risk when you have the generation sitting there, steel on the ground. And so what we did is we kind of got a mix of WAPA, which expires in 2054. This large-scale solar project is very similar in kind. There would be a long-term agreement, just like your WAPA agreement is today. And then you blend it in with maybe a fixed energy agreement that is only 5 years or 7 years or 8 years. And then if a new technology comes along, then you're easily able to incorporate that into your portfolio, whatever that product might look like. So this is just kind of a stab, but really outside of your WAPA agreement that you'll have through 2054, the green section of the pie chart, really, if you think about it, in 2027, you're going to have 95% of your portfolio completely blank canvas, and you can kind of create whatever you want to look like. And with this portfolio that we kind of recommended, and we are definitely price conscious, is we just don't want to recommend products carelessly. They're going to infringe on member cities' rates. We want to be competitive, and with this proposal, your all-in power supply would be around $60 a megawatt hour, or 6 cents a kilowatt hour, which is competitive with where the market is today. And again, just a portion of it would be fixed long term with large-scale solar and WAPA, and then you still have a considerable amount, 80%. That would be either short term or leaning on the market, which is a good thing to do 98% of the time. And this is what we call in the energy market a low duration curve, which is basically takes your peak here for the year, which is around 12 megawatts, and then just descends it every hour of every day until you get to your minimum load, which is right around 3.5 megawatts. And so what we like is like to fill up as much as we can, kind of in this area of the market. And when you're doing these power supply portfolios for member cities, it's darn near impossible to get every contract underneath your load for every hour, every day. So this represents energy that's a little bit more than what you need for that particular day or month. But the way that the market works is that anything that you contract for gets offered into the market, and you get market pricing for it. So when I say that, it's 6% oversubscribed certain hours of the year, you're actually net short to the market around 40%. But there's certain hours of the year where you have more energy than what you need. And that's just, that's not only for this proposal to the city of Goodland, but that's really, if you look at all of our cities' portfolios, they all have this type of scenario where some hours in the day they have more generation than load. But again, since you're getting full market compensation for that, that is completely okay. That's normal. And in the olden days, you didn't want to have too much because you'd be selling it back at giving back the utility at zero. But that's not the way this market design works since 2013. So it's okay to have resources above your load.
So on that question, Neil, if you can hear me okay. So on that, so on those days when we have extra power, does that get sold back at whatever the market price is, or at like the fixed price for the solar project, if that's what we have?
Neil, can you hear that? Or I can answer. So yeah,
I did not hear. Tyson, can you step into the mic and relay some? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear very well.
Can you hear me now, Neil?
Yeah. Sorry, that was a question.
So the mayor asked the question, when they're overprescribed or have more power than what they're needing, does that get sold in at that daily market price or at that fixed cost? And it is sold into the market at whatever that daily market price is. So that could be, if you buy it, the solar could be sold in at $30 and you paid $50, or it could be sold in at $80 and you paid $50. So just depending on the day and that market condition would dictate that. But typically speaking, you should be pretty close to whole. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. And essentially what Tyson just said, is I'm having a hard time on my end, but all those resources offered in day ahead, you're buying your low day ahead, and those prices are going to fluctuate every hour, every day throughout the year. But typically what you'll see is the closer that the resource is to your load, the more correlated it is to what you're purchasing out of the market. So the fact that this resource is in Kansas and it's kind of central South Kansas, and you guys are kind of western central Kansas, it should be fairly correlated. So essentially what you have is this resource, let's say it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and that resource is declaring at $70. Well, most likely you're buying your load around $70. So those two essentially cancel each other out, and then you're left with your fixed energy price at $50 a megawatt hour, and that's how it would work for every hour of every day throughout the year, throughout the life of the contract, for that matter. Whereas you're going to have some hours that it might be $30, so you're buying your load at $30, you're injecting this resources at $30, and you had this fixed price contract at $50, so you lost a little bit of money. Then there's going to be other hours throughout the year where you're buying your load at $70 for 1 hour, you're injecting it into the market for $70 an hour, and then you have this fixed contract at $50, so you made $20. So that's just the way that it kind of fluctuates. And I have people ask me, is this going to be a good deal? Throughout the life of the contract. I can't answer that wholeheartedly, but I can tell you that the market is changing. We have seen prices, like I said, double just in the last 4 or 5 years on these fixed energy deals, just to utilities being very conservative on what they offer. All the load growth, the AI growth, the things that are looming, the things that are already here. And so, and I think I think it's worth reiterating is that we can't, sit here and say that it's gonna be a slam dunk of every hour, every day. But what we can say is it's gonna stabilize rates for 14 to 15% of your energy needs during times when we need it the most, and knowing that some days are going to be higher and some days are going to be lower.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for
Myself or Neil or?
There's an urgency for a decision, I guess, what do you say?
Yeah, so the timeline, and I think maybe Neil has, so the timeline for the contract, we've got to have all of our city's contracts back to back with KMEA to NextEra by the end of December. There is a couple outs on both sides. NextEra, we think they've sold at least 100 megawatts, and we're pretty confident someone's going to buy the other 100. They've got until March 1 to sell the whole project, or, all this is for naught. The same thing, we do have an out if all of a sudden foreign tariffs get put on panels and it would raise the price $5. We can say, thanks, but no thanks. The price went up too much. So we have that out as well. So there's a little work to be done. We think the panels are procured, so we don't think the price should fluctuate. And we do think they should get the whole thing sold. But we're supposed to have all the agreements back by the end of December.
But even if we agree to this agreement, it's not binding yet until they finish their.
Yeah, we're very confident it'll get done. But yeah, there could be an out there. And Neil talks to NextEra regularly. We're pretty confident that they've got a buyer for the rest. And then we're pretty confident that the price shouldn't fluctuate, causing us to, say, hey, our members, we were good at 50, we're not good at the new number. So.
Okay. Do we have any questions on any of these slides?
I don't necessarily have any questions, but I think, with ever-changing energy needs that we have right now, I think it's a good idea if we look at ways to diversify this portfolio, and I would agree that this is probably a step that we need to take.
Yeah, I agree too. Specification is good, especially, if we can shore up some definite numbers in who knows how volatile the market will be in the future. It's pretty crazy right now, but a little bit of stability is good. I do know, and I think it'll probably be a more of a question for Dustin regarding how much we would actually want to focus. I know you're kind of pushing 3. Our last meeting, Dustin had kind of said maybe 2 might be a better fit for us. So I think we would probably need to discuss with him. Because he would know more than and the rest of us, whoever needs the best.
And we're happy to run whatever models that you may. If you want us to model 2, that's probably I think Neil showed 3 was about 14% of your current load. 2 would probably be a hair lower than, probably in the 8% range.
Yeah.
And we're good. I guess that's some of the beauty of our model is every community's a little different. Some will go, hey, we want 30% renewable, but that's their decision. So they get to kind of design their portfolio based on that particular council or the community's desires. So, but yeah, we're absolutely, if 2 sounds better to you, we can draft the agreement to reflect the 2 or 3. But typically speaking, we have been 10 to 20% is where a lot of our communities have landed. That way they layer that in with their other products. So.
Do you have any other questions for Tyson and Neil here? Okay. Okay, great, thank you. All right, so we'll let you know.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all for your time, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mira. I don't know if while we're on this subject, Dustin, do you have any more you want to add right now regarding the project or how much we should be looking at? Or
No, I think you know where I stand. I think I'm for the project. Just kind of running some numbers with the percent that we want to take to figure out where we think it's best for us. So, but definitely, I think this is a step in the right direction. I mean, we've been handcuffed with our current contract, so and I know that KMEA does work for the cities instead of the cities just being a member. You know, they're kind of a stepchild. So that's just my feeling. So.
Certainly something I think we need to get on top of right now. I gotta have something by the end of December. We only have this meeting and the next meeting, I believe, before we're done for the year, so.
And as stated at the last meeting, we were going to have the presentation by KMU this meeting. And then included in your packet was a copy of the actual agreement.
mm-hmm.
Yes.
Obviously got to insert some numbers in it, but then present the agreement for your consideration at the next meeting on December 16th.
Perfect.
All right, great, thank you. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. We have the 11/18/24 commission meeting minutes and the appropriation ordinances 2024-23, 2024-23A, and 2024-P23. Any questions, comments, or concerns on those?
Motion to approve consent agenda items A and B.
A motion by Commissioner Showalter,
Second.
second by Commissioner Myers. Any further discussion? Roll, please.
Howard.
Yes.
Redlin.
Yes.
Myers. Yes. Showalter.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, up next we have ordinance 1793 for the annexation of city-owned property over by Topside Manor. Okay.
And this is the parcel, it's 35 acres, and a little bit over 35 acres, just west of Topside Manor. It does have on that property the waste ponds from the water treatment plant that just hold water, basically, excess water. And according to Kansas statutes, 12.520A2 and 12.520AF, fulfills the conditions that there's really just the since it's city-owned property, it's basically considered that you are consenting to annex the property, and it just has the ordinance.
So we're asking ourselves for permission.
Asking ourselves for permission.
Yeah.
And then if you choose to approve the ordinance, then that's all it takes to annex the property.
Anyone have any questions on that?
I move that we approve ordinance 1793.
A motion by Commissioner Howard,
Second.
second by Commissioner Showalter. Any further discussion? Roll, please.
Myers.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Redlin.
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, next we have the renewal of our Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance.
And we will have another presenter, Jayla Miller with IMA, which there she is, although she gets covered up by the.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, much better than I could the first presentation. So that is good news going forward. So, well, good evening. I'm here to present the 2025 renewal from Blue Cross and Blue Shield this year. So to kick us off, the renewal change is a 9.5% increase. The estimated change you can see on that top row there on page 1 is a $71,243,000 increase. The cause for the increase is due to an increase in utilization over the last year and a half on the plan. From a trend standpoint, this renewal increase is right on for trend. Down below on this slide, you can see the cost components of the self-funded plan broken out in their renewal. So the administration cost, so this is what Blue Cross charges to process claims, have the network, etc. That's staying flat. Stop loss, so this would be insurance that the city buys to protect from large claims losses. That's currently at a $30,000 individual stop loss level. That was a 9.4% increase, and then the largest bulk of the increase are to expected claims at 10.5%. Due to the increase this year, the IME team did go and request several options from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. On page 2, you can see the financial executive summary of all of these options. The box in green is our recommended renewal option for this year. It is to remain with the grandfathered plan, but increase that specific stop loss deductible from $30,000 to $40,000. So this would mean that the city would take on an additional $10,000 of claims liability for each member. But as you can see in the gold, the stop loss premium would go down. So the stop loss premium is a known fixed cost that the city would pay. And the savings to move to this plan from a fixed cost perspective is around $16,245. There is a slight increase to claims. However, that's some of the art of self-funding is knowing when to increase your risk tolerance to win on the claims side. And given how the plan has ran the last couple of years and how the plan is running so far in 2024, we feel like it is a good risk to take this year, to take on that additional claims liability and take in some of those fixed claims, fixed cost premium savings. The other bars that you can see here are non-grandfathered options that we looked at. The next 2 slides, I will walk through why we're recommending the grandfathered option over any one of the non-grandfathered options. The first being there wasn't a lot of price difference, as you can see here, between any of these options. And then on the next slide, I will show you from a plan design standpoint how that would impact members.
Okay, while we're on this, over on this slide, could you, so on the renewals between the grandfathered with the 30,000 stop loss and the 40,000 stop loss, could you explain just a little bit more how those numbers are adjusted differently on those? Because I mean, I'm only seeing on the numbers I'm seeing, it's a $3,000 difference on the cost going from the 30,000 to the 40,000. So I'm just curious as to how it's figured that the risk of on our side is better, or it's justified for the extra $10,000 on the stop loss if the price on the premium, the difference is only $3,000.
Yes, so that's a great question. So one of the exercises that my team did is what we call a specific deductible analysis. And so what that entails is looking at how many individuals over the last 3 years have had an excess of $30,000 in claims. And so when we, in fact, I'm just going to pull this slide over here and I can show you this analysis. So over the last 3 years, at the $30,000 level, so 22 to 23, there were 5 individuals that had over $30,000 in claims cost. And then if the city had a $40,000 stop loss deductible in 2022, there would have been 3 members who had a claims over $40,000. The increase in claims that the city would have paid was $36,234, is the difference on that from 30 to 40,000. In 2023, the city also had 5 members that have had $30,000 in claims, and it would be 3 at $40,000, with the city paying an additional claims cost of $38,895. So far this year, for 2024, there is 1 individual who has exceeded $30,000 and 1 individual who has exceeded $40,000. The city would have been taking on an additional $10,000 in risk. So when I look at, to go up to the top here, how we get to why this is a good risk. So at $30,000, your premium is $317,860. At the 40,000 level, the proposed premium would be $274,318. That's a difference of $43,542. So this is the annual savings. In order to have that savings go away, the plan would need to have 4 individuals who go over $40,000. So $10,000 more in claims per individual. 4.35 people would need to go to hit that number. So in addition, right now today, the city is paying 34% would be paying 34% in stop loss premium. Currently, you're paying more percentage than that. So in essence, you're overinsured. And so we would recommend, and we've looked at this for the last couple of years, and it's always kind of been on the fence whether or not to recommend to make this move. But given how the plan is running so far this year, and that every year you have had less than those 4 individuals that would negate any potential savings, we would recommend the city take the premium savings and take savings on the fixed cost, and then take on the risk that you would, maybe have an additional $43,000 in claims. The way the plan is running, we don't believe that outcome would happen so far this year.
Okay, so the expectation was that we will be able to cover more with the stop loss, and the hope is that the overall for the year will be less than expected, and it will save on the other end.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so why we're recommending this grandfathered option. So we had 2 non-grandfathered options that we requested from Blue Cross, and I've laid them side by side with your current plan design. I wanted to look at triple options because I wanted to see some of the premium differences if we looked at doing things like increasing deductibles and increasing out-of-pockets. In this first option here, there would still be a $500 deductible option. That $1,000 coinsurance would still be there, but the out-of-pocket for employees would go up to $5,000. There'd be an increase in specialist visit copays. There'd be a copay associated with the emergency room, and then the formulary would change. There would be exclusions on this formulary. There would also be a difference in the copay structure. And then in the second model, that coinsurance maximum goes away, and the individuals could pay up to the out-of-pocket maximum. Essentially, in a non-grandfathered plan, from a plan design standpoint, the employees and their families could take on additional risk in terms of out-of-pocket costs. Right now, the city's plans are very rich, especially compared to other Kansas municipalities. And I know that you use them as a recruitment and retention tool. And in watering down the plan design, moving to a non-grandfathered plan and increasing those out-of-pocket costs, that could hurt some of that argument for recruitment and retention. And then again, there just wasn't enough financial difference in the options to justify some of the shift in the out-of-pocket cost to the member. In addition to that, the way that the prescription plan runs today is there's a prescription deductible, and then once that deductible is met, then it's a coinsurance of 50%. That is essentially keeping the cost overall for the plan down. In this blue bar right here, you'll see the City of Goodland's per employee per month cost for prescription drugs is at $18. Comparing that to IMA's analytics book of business, the average per employee per month for prescriptions is $230. And the Blue Cross book of business is $145 per employee per month. Overall, the City of Goodland's average pharmacy cost over the last 3 years is $2,303 a year. If you were to move to a non-grandfathered plan, there is unknown liability about what drugs could hit the plan. And over to the right side of this, I've given you just a snapshot of the top 20 drugs that have hit other Kansas public sectors, plans that we help manage. And you can see some of the cost of these. These are the costs that plans are paying per script. So a drug like Stelara, which is prescribed 4 times a year, is $28,000 a year. And so if somebody starts taking a drug like that, or Humira is another positive one, at even $9,000 a year, those are costs that the plan would have to pay that today are not accounted for in how we budget. And, I want to be mindful of making sure that the city can maintain their reserve. And so that is the second reason why we would recommend remaining grandfathered, is there is a lot of unknown cost in the pharmacy space for what could hit the plan when your average cost has been $2,300 for the last 3 years. If some of these drugs were to hit the plan and became stop-loss hits, then we could see your stop-loss premiums go up consistently over time. So this is as much of a long-term strategy as it is a 2025 strategy to remain with this grandfathered plan. Questions on that?
Nope, I don't believe so.
Okay, great. So given our recommendation, we have put together 3 contribution illustrations for your review and approval this evening. The first illustration is keeping your employee fund cost as it is today. And so right now, today, the employees do not pay anything for the plan. The city pays all of the premiums. In this model, the city would take on the change, which is $67,514. The second option we have provided is what would it look like if the employees' cost increased by 2% for 2025. You can see on the right side of this table, what the employee monthly rates would be at 2% of the premiums listed here. The city would pick up the rest. In this model, the employees would take on $16,281 of the increase, while the city would take on $51,233 of the increase. One thing to note, being a grandfathered plan, the maximum an employee's cost can go up is 5%, and so this 2% is just a very modest increase over this year. The third option for your consideration is if we maintain the $0 cost for the employee only, while increasing the employee plus tiers to 2%. so that there's still that one free option. In this model, the employees would take on $15,220. The city would take on $52,294. So any thoughts or comments on the three options for consideration?
I mean, on any three options, the city's got to come up with a chunk of change out of somewhere. You know, we ran a pretty tight budget again this last year, so I mean, even on that cheapest option, we got to come up with another $50,000 out of somewhere.
Well, we did budget in 2025 an 8% increase to health insurance. So part of it, the vast majority of it is budgeted for. You don't have to take it from somewhere else at this point. But and we've done pretty well for the last 2 or 3 renewals as far as it wasn't in a very tough range. But Jada related to us while this was being presented that there was quite a few municipalities that were definitely in double digits, and the average was around 14-15%. So for most municipalities on their renewals. So I don't have an answer for us if we would have a 15% increase. Not at the current time, so.
So the 9% projected increase right now, we have already budgeted 8% of that.
Correct.
So if we leave it the same, where does that other 1% come from?
Well, obviously there was a little bit of cash reserve, obviously, and the employee benefit and the stop loss fund. You know, we use 2 different funds, one for the stop loss portion and one for the employee. It comes from that, from what we have cash in there right now. So it could be done, but it's also a situation that's, you know, we've made strides to make those 2 funds healthy, but it's definitely not perfect at this point.
So I think like last year, maybe even the year before, you know, we had budgeted for a certain percent increase, and the actual increase was smaller than the percentage that we budgeted. Where do those extra funds go?
They just stay in that fund.
So we should, because I don't know how much is in the fund. I would think that we would probably have enough in there to cover this amount if we were a few percentages over the last couple of years. Unless we have used those funds for other things within the insurance.
We do. But we were getting to a point where we were going to have problems.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting healthier again. And the decision can be to keep it as it is. And we can work with it. I'll leave that.
Mary, do you know how much is sitting in that fund?
In the self-insurance fund,
Is that
that's where we do our stop loss out of. It's about $390.
is that where so is that the same fund that the extra percentage that we budgeted goes into as well for insurance?
No, we budget it out of the fund that, like, electric's budget out of electric. Employee benefits is all the general funds. So insurance is budgeted out of their funds. And we budget 8%. If we don't use 8%, it rolls right back into that fund as a cash reserve. And we adjust that every time we do our budget. Like when we did the 2020 25, we adjusted it according to what we're paying in 2024, so it carries over.
It's just because rolled into whatever the end of that year's cash reserves is not necessarily its own separate fund.
Right.
Okay, I got you.
Right. The only separate fund is the self-insurance, which is where we pay the stop loss out of. And we pay a premium to that every month. That stop loss portion, that's what's paid to there every month.
Man, I really feel like we're almost there. I mean, we've almost got it covered.
Yeah.
I mean, if the least we can do is go one more year to remain the same, that would be where I would sit.
I'm in agreement with that. When does this plan take effect?
March of 2025.
My thought on it is keep it the same. And when March rolls around, we need to have another discussion on this and say to the employees, figure out if the employees are going to pay 1%, 2%, or 3% when it comes back around for a renewal again. That gives them a whole year to know that they are going to have to pay 1%, 2%, or 3%, or 4% or 5%. Instead of just, bam, 3 months, you're going to have to pay extra amount.
Yeah, I mean, the other problem with that is, though, I mean, you have to take whatever amount you want to budget into consideration at budget time. Right. Is in the middle of the year. Mm-hmm. We know that that's not a decision we make now. You know, unfortunately, that's a decision we made several months ago.
But it would just help the employees out, knowing that they're not going to have less money come out of their paycheck. But I'm in for keeping 100% paid.
Same.
Like, you know, this is just it's a conversation that we've had, you know, a couple times over the last few years, and I think that we can probably all see at some point that there's going to have to be some kind of employee, you know, there's going to have to be some kind of deduction there, but, you know, I think the longer we can keep it, the better off we're going to be. You know, it's an incredible thing that we can offer to people that are looking to come to work here. And I think that it outweighs the 1% that we're going to have to come up with. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I don't think there's any way we want to get off the grandfathered plan for as long as humanly possible. Because, I mean, short of maybe some of the prescription, the plan itself is pretty remarkable in this day and age of what we can somebody can offer. No, it's just something that you guys will have to, you know, next budget season, think about, you know, when you're considering what kind of a percentage you think you need to increase for the following year, you know, and how that ties into everything else you're trying to do.
Yeah.
You know, I believe we ended up taking our original amount that we were going to budget and taking it down a bit to help cover other costs without a big increase, you know, in costs and services to the citizens of the city. So, I mean, it's just a really hard thing to deal with, and it's a really hard thing to come to a decision about 6 months before you actually see what your renewal numbers are going to be. You know, it's pretty impossible. But yeah, I'm also in favor for this coming year, especially with the 3 options that has been presented as the best options. You know, even at 2%, I mean, we're only making a $15,000 difference between just paying it all for another year or adding that 2%. And I mean, that just doesn't seem like a big enough difference to even worry about. But, any other thoughts?
It's really glad that we were that close.
Yeah, that's the thing, is we were close. If we weren't close, we'd be having probably a different discussion.
Okay, well, I'm going to make a motion to approve the following year's Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance with the contribution of the 40,000 stop loss and keeping employee costs the same and funding not expected.
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Redland. Any other discussion?
just reiterate what the motion is, so I know I put it down right?
So the $40,000 stop loss
And the city paying us.
and the cumulative cost the same,
Okay,
city paying for all the costs. Yep.
that's what I got, thanks.
Roll,
Myers.
Yes.
I knew you were waiting. Redland.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Showalter. Sorry about that.
Wow.
Yes.
Sorry about that, guys.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jayla. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too, thank you.
Have a good evening. Okay, up next we have the banking services, RFBs. Ken?
You'll be up there.
Yes, please. We had to defer to Mary to start.
This has been a tough deal.
Yeah.
The city used to bid banking services every 3 years. And it really is hard because when you change banks, you got to do the runoff and all that stuff and changing all the numbers and stuff. But with our current bank selling, I did have a request from another bank asking if I would bid banks. So I did. It's been a learning experience because banking has changed since the last time I bid the services. We received 3 bids, which I was really glad for because I think this is the first time I've ever received all 3 bids. All 3 are designated depositories of the city. First National Bank, their bid, they outlined, which you have the bids there. They do have service charges for different services that they offer. And that pretty much set them apart from the other 2 banks. We have Western State and Bank West, who basically offered our main banking services at no fee. Checks are at no charge. I believe one of them had a wire fee. I don't use wires. I guess I need to take that out of my bid proposal. We use ACHs. We don't use wires anymore.
Yeah, I think it was Western State that had the wire.
Yeah, okay.
If you were to use it.
Okay, thanks. But the main difference between the 2 is, I don't know how far to get into the financial instruments, but Bank West has an instrument that they use called ICS, and it's basically where they have a balance of money deposited through banks nationwide. They're not necessarily in Kansas. And this is their way of meeting our security pledging requirement, meaning any money over the FDIC insurance is adequately secured. So if the bank would fail, we have coverage for that money. The reason you have those, we used to use CDARS, and with the size of the transactions going in and out of the city account, they can transfer money from the ICS into our main account at my request, saying, I'm a little low today, can you please transfer some money because I don't know what's all going to clear the bank today, and it could be a $500,000 check. That rate, they didn't quote that rate in their bid. Right now it's sitting at 3.15, and I think it's been that since April. I did ask for an increase on that, and I was declined. Western State offers the same sort of tool. It's called the money market account. With Western State, that money all stays in their bank, and to secure that, they secure it with securities like bonds, letters of credit, just different tools that you can secure that money, knowing that if the bank fails, you are still covered over the FDIC insurance. They guaranteed that rate at 3.25 for a year. I don't know what interest rates are going to do. I have an idea, but I don't. Mm-hmm. And plus, that money, since it is maintained here, it's here for them to turn around and loan it out to our local farmers or our local people. It's in the community. It's not all over the United States. That is the main difference between those 2 bids.
both banks have merits. I honestly don't know what you're going to suggest. I'm intrigued by the money market account in the fact that with Bank West, I have to pull my bank account up every day, which I would anyway. But if my bank's sitting at $50,000 and you see some of these base grant and all the ARPA funds and all these checks that go out.
Big numbers.
Yeah, the big numbers. How many of those are going to clear today? And you want to make sure you have enough. With the money market account, Western State does all that. Meaning I can tell them I want to leave $500,000 in the city account, and they'll make sure at the end of the day that's what I got in there. I don't have to tell them this is what I want you to transfer. I also feel, and Kent and I were discussing this later, I don't know if this is actually true, but I think if that's the case, I can keep less money in that account and invest it at the 3.25, which is a higher percent, and get more money on interest for the city. So, I mean, I'm intrigued by that.
Yeah.
You know, the other fact is we've established a relationship with Bank West and that personnel, but they're no longer Bank West. They're the bank at the end of the year. And, you know, that comes with, I'm not going to lie, it comes with some concern. You don't know what kind of services, how they're going to change and that kind of stuff. You hope not, but so.
Okay. Well, first I want to say that I did misspeak a little bit ago.
But you did, or I did?
I did. It was First National Bank that has the wire transfer fee on their form, not West.
Okay.
I thought so. When I saw First National Bank, I was like,
no. He started asking me, he goes, do you use wires? And I said,
Okay, so
no.
okay.
The last wire I used was, I think, 2 bonds ago, maybe. I was thinking about that over the weekend. I thought, you know, I said, well, when you do bonds, but I think it was 2 bonds ago. So, because even the state uses, when I pay the bond payments, I use ACH. I schedule them and they pull the money out of my account.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
That's just what the Fed Reserve charges us, so it's just passed on.
Yeah.
So, but I'll answer any questions that you'd like. I mean, it's going to be a tough decision. I'm leaning toward Western State just for the mere fact that I'm intrigued that it's local, and I think it's going to help our local community. I went back and watched or looked at the ICS statements, and they are all over the United States. I mean, where they deposit money. So,
It sounds like this one will make it easier for you too.
a lot easier. At least that's the way it was explained to me, that it was going to be a lot easier. So, and either way, I have to change the routing number and the account number, whether it stays at Bank West or if it goes to Western State. So this was a perfect time to bid them.
Right.
So
I don't know, could you elaborate on a little more, or clarify a little more on that as far as like, what you guys do on your end as far as the money that's in the money market account and you guys' movement to cover cost per day?
So the money market is just another account that we have. It's actually the sweep function that sweeps the money into the account and back every day. So what Mary does manually now, our system would already do it, whatever that peg balance is. That's what our farmers use on their checking accounts from their loan. So it'd be the reverse of what you guys have from their loan. And it helps you, the customer, because those funds don't sweep until the check clears. So like Mary's saying, she mailed a check, for instance, let's say $500,000 last week. Well, who knows when that's going to clear the bank, but she has to have that sent in the bank ready to clear. With our product, she doesn't need to tell us that. When it hits Federal Reserve and it hits your account, that night it'll sweep over those funds, and whatever that peg balance is, like she said, for our purposes, we used $500,000. It will be at that dollar level every day, every night. When she gets deposits in, she won't have to transfer that money out of that checking account, the business account, if you will, back to that money market. It'll do that at the end of every day as soon as it's collected. So it takes the guesswork
out of mine and it puts it on the bank. Am I correct in saying that I possibly could have that be a lower balance?
Yeah, you would just put in your paperwork, $500,000. We could work that down. I mean, if there's no need in doing that.
I was just talking to Ken about it, and that's why I thought, we could even gain a little bit more there.
That'd be a better deal for the city as well. So, also, I guess, if I may, Mary mentioned as far as all that money staying local, ICS is a good tool. It distributes that risk out to everybody. And I would venture to say that it goes beyond even the United States borders. A lot of that goes to our friends to the north, to Canada, where all that money here would stay within Western Kansas for sure, and Western State Bank's footprint. But a lot of it be loaned out right here to our friends and families here in Goodland. In your packet there, I put in there, it was a Fort Hays State Tiger from the banking
study.
Yeah, that they did a study on the Kansas Bankers Association request, and it was interesting. Their research found that for that money to go outside of the local area, they would have to pay an extra 3.15% to get that money flowing back through in the community. So that was interesting that number was that high if that money's sent elsewhere too. So I put that in there. There's that's just the news release part of it. There's a much longer that I can forward to you if you'd like. So thank you for the opportunity. Yes, like Mary said, change is hard, but change is good as well. But looking forward to the new relationship if you guys would choose. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thoughts?
So you're done with me? I can go back to my seat.
I will thank you, Mary.
I don't like to be in this position.
Just keep track of this over there. You don't have to go back.
I have to realize this.
We could take really good notes.
I would make it known too, if you did do Western State Bank. BankWest does the ICS in lieu of CDs, and I do have CDs at First National and at Western. That I would give them the same option that I do Western State and First National now. Because I try to keep my money with all of them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think I try to put that in the resolution that it's important to keep them with all of them. So I mean, if that's the case, I would go back to them and say, okay, what do you want as far as CDs so that we can work those into getting there.
And the fourth local bank has refused to participate, or they participated at one time, they no longer participate, or chosen not to participate.
They don't want the public.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing that I appreciate the most about Western State's proposal is that it makes Mary's job easier, and I'm always looking for ways that can lessen the burden of any of our employees.
Agreed. Well, I'll make a motion to do everyday business with Western State Bank. Second. Is that good enough wording for you?
Oh yeah, I got it here. I multitask.
Well, a motion by Commissioner Howard and a second by Commissioner Revlin. Any further discussion? Roll please.
Howard.
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Redmond.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You should do more public speaking, Mary. You were great.
Yeah. Okay, up next we have an appointment for the Housing Authority. We have an application from Cole Archer.
Just a recommendation from the Housing Authority Board for Cole Archer. Would be a good addition to the board. And the recommendation comes to you.
Yeah, I think, he's moved back to the community and he's really trying to put his roots in. He's got a business going and him and his wife, and they're trying to be really involved in the community. I think it'd be a good fit.
I agree.
Make a motion to appoint Cole Archer to the Housing Authority Board.
A motion by Commissioner Showalter.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Myers. Any further discussion? Roll, please.
Redland.
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, and then we have a resignation off the airport board of Dustin Stevenson.
You have the letter in your packets, and it's resignation as of the end of the year, on December 31st. Wants to complete one more meeting with the airport board because they need to make a recommendation on the airport improvement plan that needs to be approved in January to be sent to the FAA. So, airport board will meet next week, and also at that meeting they'll start discussing. The city's received a couple applications for replacement on the airport board, so they'll discuss that and have that recommendation to you at your next meeting.
I make a motion to accept the resignation of Dustin Stevenson from the airport board.
A motion by Commissioner Showalter. Second by Commissioner Howard. Further discussion? Roll, please.
Myers.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Redland.
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, and then we have pay estimate number 5 for the industrial park improvement project.
It's getting pretty close.
Real close.
This final pay estimate number 5 is for $93,341 and some pennies, 82 pennies. So we're getting pretty close with it.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to approve pay estimate number 5 for the amount of $93,341 and 82 pennies.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Redland. Any further discussion? Roll, please.
Howard.
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Redland.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, next up, we have a presentation for the proposed multifamily development. We have Mr. Connor Hampton here this evening. Welcome.
Welcome. I printed out a couple examples of what we're proposing to build. I got 5 of them, so it's something I can share. There's a packet. Let's see, we're up to it now. I should go with that.
Okay.
We can share. We can share. And then you can hold on.
Over here, please.
Oh, yeah, all right, perfect.
Unless you guys really want one.
No, we're okay.
Good evening. My name is Connor Hampton. I am looking to do a multifamily development out here in Goodland. I have been around the construction and development world my whole life, my father being a contractor. I partner with developers out of Dallas and several multifamily projects in rural areas, but also in Wichita. What you're looking at in the pictures on that packet are an example of a plan that we did in South Wichita recently. I would like to do a very similar floor plan out here in a development. Why I like to focus on rural development is because of the state's commitment recently to really juice up their investment in rural communities. My focus has been on how you can best utilize and stretch dollars from the state without costing the city or the developer any more than they need to. Because without incentives, development doesn't happen in a small town like this. Right? With interest rates being higher, construction costs being higher, it's not feasible without these incentive programs to come and develop in communities like Goodland, Colby, and such. If you're familiar with some of the development that's going on in Colby, they're doing the exact same plan. I went over and looked at some of the, if you're familiar with the 9 duplexes that they're building behind the Taco John's, met with Mike Wifter today. The investors on that plan are doing exactly what I would be looking to do here in Woodland. The first step is to zone the area that we're looking to develop an RHID, a Rural Housing Incentive District. One of the printout packets that I gave you goes into detail of exactly what an RHID is, how it works, and what we need done. I would work in conjunction with the city to make sure that the RHID goes smooth, as well as our engineering firm that we partner with is very familiar with RHID zones. Okay, why would you do an RHID? Well, in theory, the way it works is it's what's going to pay for the infrastructure, the horizontal infrastructure, and the land acquisition. Okay, so streets, sewer, water, oftentimes the most expensive part of any development. Well, developers don't want to take on that burden when you're doing a project at scale, nor does the city, right? And so the way you pay for it is you can still, either one of two ways. The way we would look to do it is to still issue a bond, a special assessment bond, to pay for the infrastructure up front, and then the RHID would pay off the debt service on that bond. Okay, and the way an RHID works, it does not take away from any of the current tax revenue on that property. But the increase in property value, that property tax goes towards either the developer or the city, whoever's paying that special assessment down. Make sense? Can we get some nods? Mm-hmm. So there's no missed income from the tax revenue that's current. It even has an example in that packet. If the current property tax income is $100 on a piece of property because it's, say, farmland, it's ag ground, well, then we go in and develop it. Well, that's going to raise the property value on that significantly. The spread, the increase, so now let's say we're getting $1,000 on that same property per duplex. Well, that $900 increment goes towards paying down that special tax bond. Okay, so not a penny is taken away from the city, from the community, nor the developer, making it feasible for us to come and build. The other two programs that I would be writing grants for, one is a moderate income housing grant. We can request for up to $650,000 from the state that would be issued to the city to use for vertical construction. Okay, and then the final one would be a KHITC tax credit. The tax credit, we can get so much per unit that we build. My proposal would be to start with 20 units, 10 duplexes in phase 1, and then develop as we go, as the demand progresses. Okay, but let's say we end up getting $700,000 in tax credits from the state. As a developer, we go look to sell those tax credits. Oftentimes, the most likely buyers in the past have been banks. Okay, we would look to partner with a local bank, both for lending and for purchasing these tax credits. So before we even take out a dollar on our line of credit from the bank is already profiting from purchasing our tax credits from us. And we're profiting from, well, not profiting, but we're benefiting from being able to use those proceeds towards the development rather than for our own tax liability, right? And so with the infrastructure being handled by a RHID and the vertical construction being helped out by MIH, KHITC, and then of course our line of credit that we would take on to build the rest, this project can give much needed housing demand at an affordable cost that hasn't been happening in Goodland at this scale before. And I have the floor plans in that packet that we would like to do. Only adjustment I would like to make would be to include one of the closets as a storm shelter. We've done it in previous plans where one of the, let's assume the master closet, is reinforced concrete. God forbid a tornado comes and right. We are the developer. We are not the contractor. We will be partnering with a local contractor. I've been communicating with a few to get bids from them. But we're going to be looking to do as much local investment as possible from even after they're built for ongoing management. We want them to be a maintenance-free community. In other areas that we've built them, they've attracted demographics from all over, both from older communities that may be looking to downsize or looking for not having to worry about lawn maintenance, and also from younger communities, because buying half of one duplex may be much more feasible and affordable than buying a single-family house. So we've seen in Wichita and in Little Rock, Arkansas, and all the other areas that we've built, very high demand for the product that we're building. And we think that the demand is going to be here in Goodland.
Okay. Questions? So I guess my first question is, what's your timeline and what do you need from us?
First step, we most likely need an updated housing needs assessment. It's my understanding that the city had one completed a few years back. What, 2019 was it?
Remember when that was? 21, yeah. It was.
Perfect. Do we know beginning of the year or later? Okay. So as far as our timeline, the sooner better on the housing needs assessment, right? Because after the housing, and it says it in the packet on the steps we need for RHID, because RHID is step one. Mm-hmm. We need the housing needs assessment in order for the city to adopt a resolution making the 35 acres west of Topside Manor an RHID zone. Okay. After it's an RHID zone, I can then get all the information I need from the bank that we will be working with, as well as a contractor, to write the grant. We would at least need kind of letters of intent from the city that we would be purchasing the intended ground upon receiving the grants. Okay. But step one is that RHID. Step two, write the grants. And a lot of things all come together at once, right? I mean, we have to have the bank, letter of credit involved. We've got to have the contractor identified, the projected cost, our timeline. So there are several steps in it, but having all the ducks in a row kind of comes together when you write these grants to tell the state exactly what timeline we're going to be following. But the first part in that timeline is that RHID. And the good news is, even if let's say you make the whole 35 acres the RHID zone, we can usually fit 3 duplexes per acre. We're only going to start with 10 duplexes, 20 units, okay? And then go as the demand increases, go from there. Well, we might only have to start with taking the current street that's there out an extra 50 yards or so. That won't cost a whole lot. And so for that first phase, shouldn't take long for adding infrastructure. But as long as the rest of it is RHID zone, whatever future infrastructure is added can go to help pay for it because it's zoned already. Then you don't have to worry about doing a new RHID every time you're adding a new phase to that development. So it will more than likely spur future construction in that same area and have the infrastructure already taken care of.
What is the process to get that property declared an RHID zone?
It should detail in the orange pamphlet to issue a request after the housing needs assessment. You issue a request for a proposal the city would adopt and approve that you're going to make it an RHID. Then there's a 30-day waiting period that any of the local taxing authorities can veto it. They don't approve. The city's the only one that approves it, but technically the school board could veto, the county could veto. And out of all the RHIDs I've seen written, I've only seen one project ever get vetoed, and it was not in a small town. So after that 30-day window, it's assumed that it has been accepted. It's then sent off to the state for them to implement. And the state cannot deny it. Once the city approves it and it goes through the 30-day waiting period and nobody vetoes it, it then goes to the state to be processed, and we're good.
So you said you've built some projects very similar to these. Have you done some recently?
We have hundreds of lots going right now.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, what kind of, and I know each project is different,
right,
but like what kind of prices are some of the more recent ones that are selling for?
I can speak to Wichita. That's where most recently built that exact floor plan, and I personally own some myself. We in South Wichita, we were selling them for $182,500 a side. So you're looking at $365,000 for a full duplex. And the rent, the ones that we rent, we're going for approximately $1,500, $1,550 per side. Now that's in Wichita. The numbers look different in each community, of course.
Yeah.
Out in western Kansas, I mean, sure, you have lower average property value compared to a larger city, but you also have more constricted demand, right? There's more supply in Wichita than there would be supply in Goodland. I mean, if you look at what some of the single-family houses have been selling for in Goodland, they're not much cheaper than what, especially for new construction. You also have to weigh in construction cost. It's going to actually cost more to build in Goodland than it would cost in Wichita. There's not nearly as many subcontractors, and the certain subs that do have to travel into town, you're having to pay for them to travel. Okay, but that's why we have grants, right? We understand that there will be increased cost on our end, which is why people don't develop this scale of projects in rural areas without these type of grant programs. But yeah, those numbers in Wichita, I can't say they're going to be exactly the same here. Biggest factor is going to be what our cost is going to be to our contractor. But I mean, heck, even being able to buy 1,200 square foot, 3-bed, 2-bath, fully fenced in, fully managed community for $185,000, $190,000. That's a lot cheaper than the current 3-bed, 2-bath new build, at least, houses would be going for in rural areas, right? I can't compare, I can't compare a house that's 20 plus years old.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at new construction, it is much more cost effective to the future homeowner or renter on that type of plan.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Would you say the square footage?
1,200.
1,200.
Yep. Per side.
Since we happen to have a banker in the audience tonight, if I just, and if you don't want to answer, fine, I'm just going to ask you in general, is the purchasing of tax credit something that your bank does at all? Is that something that you participate in? Okay. Okay. That's all I wanted to know, if it's something that you guys have done. I feel like it could be a good opportunity to get some good moderate housing. I mean, like I said, for what he's selling, of course, we don't know what ours would sell for either, but for that dollar amount, for just what today's market seems very reasonable for what people are paying for that kind of a space. But so, I mean, yeah, I hope the commission thinks about it very hard, and I hope you guys decide to kind of move forward with this project. But it seems like the first step before we can do anything is to get that housing assessment done, right?
Yep, housing assessment, and then adopt the
resolution.
The resolution
designated RHID.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'll talk to the state and see if they'll take the 2021 housing assessment to at least adopt it for the zone, but we would still need the updated housing assessment for the grants.
Sure.
So that way, if at least allows us to do something while we're in limbo until the new assessment's done. But I can get back with Kent on that.
Yeah, it should qualify.
It's 2021
within the time frame.
Okay.
Only 3 years old, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
For the RHID.
yeah, we could potentially just for RHID move forward with adopting the resolution. That would have to be drafted, of course. But then whenever the new assessment comes out, that will just help our process in getting the grant.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Because the housing assessment was done there does need to be some updating with the housing assessment results, which I think would strengthen the case for any application for MIH or the KHITC. So.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, other than these department heads that are sitting here, everyone else I think is newbies from when I sat in your guys' seat. But I think it was in 2009, Mary, when we purchased that ground from the school district?
Oh, about then, yeah.
2009, at one point, we were just looking to buy the specific amount of acres for the water treatment facility. And the school board at the time was short funds, different era then. We negotiated to buy the whole thing. And part of that plan at that time, when I sat in your seat as mayor, was let's get all of it to use it for exactly this. So now here we are, 13, 14 years later with this opportunity. You know, things take time, but no time like the present to get this going. And this is the first plan that I know of someone coming, yes, not from Goodland, but coming to Goodland and wanting to invest and do something like this. So I think it's awesome and amazing, and he's got, you know, everything pretty much designed and going forward. So I'm kind of really excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity.
Not from Goodland, but I did marry into Goodland.
Yes.
My wife.
Which now makes you local. So now makes you local.
Dave Hampton, formerly Bearman, if you know her. Yeah. The hospital's trying to recruit her, so that's another topic.
All right, anything else?
I mean, to stay on it, I'm certainly in favor of it. We need to keep working towards it.
Okay, so looks like we need to check in to see if our current housing assessment will work for.
The other part of the RIJD is also explaining, just like did with the land bank here last week, with that it's a tool. And we explain the information to the other governing authorities that could be affected. We're doing that preparation ahead of time with the school board and the county commissioners regarding it.
Sure.
So.
Sounds like more work for you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on to reports, starting with our city manager, Kent.
Included in your packet is manager memo. The industrial park, they did complete the north sewer main line. It is in the ground, and the ground has been put back to what it be. They did pour the, where they had to cross the street with the main, they re-poured that concrete, they poured an entrance. They have one couple of cleanup, little small areas to address. And I wasn't able to talk with Andrew today as far as what else needs to get done, but they are approaching wrap-up mode regarding that project. So it is ready. The city crews have also completed the connection with water main. I don't think they have it charged as yet, unless that happened today. Not yet. And but all the infrastructure is in the ground, so they have got that part of the project done as well. So hopefully it looks good to you guys you can see it from the bridge, but
Looks really good.
I don't know if you've driven around inside it as well. So.
Yep.
Let you know regarding that. We'll ask Zach to come up and give you all information regarding 321 Broadway.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
So on the 4th of November, Resolution 1649 was adopted to give the property owner 30 days. We have not reached 30 days as of today, but Wednesday is 30 days. So I'm requesting permission on the 30th day, if nothing has happened, to send out the bids. That way we can award them at the following meeting this month and start the process on it.
Yes.
Yes.
Consensus is yes.
Thank you.
We don't expect any communication from the farm section. So.
These all came today.
Oh, jeez.
So I don't think we're gonna hear from them.
Yeah.
So, we're done with that.
Thanks.
That was the only property he wanted to update you guys on. There's one other property in the hopper that's getting ready to come before you guys. The 18th Street, Kim's not here tonight, but we have had a request. The 18th Street, it's south of 17th Street, but west of Alex's on 17th Street, where there's just 2-3 blocks there that go 1 block south to the railroad. And then 18th Street is like right next to the railroad. Well, there hasn't been any improvement to that street. And the railroad folks and something else has actually been using that road, and then with the rains a couple of weeks ago, really tore that road up. So, and with Schooler's expansion of the tracks down in that area, it's kind of presented a little bit of a need at that location. So we're going to be doing city crews are going to be doing some work to address that road on 18th Street between Texas and Montana, I believe. Might not be Montana, but Texas is one of the streets that's in Montana. But it'll be 2 blocks worth, and they'll just be adding some concrete crushings to it to let it be more solid road in the future. It's really not a road that's used by the public. It's really just there's some citizens that live in that area, and also a couple other businesses. So it's just a dirt road at this point. I wanted to let you know about that. The snow removal equipment from the airport has arrived. We did have the technician from MB come, but then we ended up with one more hurdle to take care of as far as how it attaches to the loader. And they're going to have to widen out the hole, just 1/100th of an inch or a millimeter or 2 more to get it done. So on one side of where it connects with it. So otherwise, the rest of the hydraulics is getting into place and getting to be operational. So, and that snow blower is a big piece of equipment. So, as is the blade, but they were
taking our concerns about getting the snow removal off at 8th Street isn't necessary because it's going to blow the snow over the houses anyway.
Well, we won't be able to use it on 8th Street.
Yeah,
except in an emergency. But and I'll just say that so that in case the FAA is listening. No, it's not for you. But it is close to being operational for the winter, since winter hasn't arrived in Goodland yet. So, as far as snow, and cold enough. So. And then on the land bank ordinance, met with the county commissioners last week as well as the school board. Had good meetings with both. They were both generally in favor of the land bank ordinance and looked to move forward with it. They did ask a couple questions, but really didn't have time to prepare it for this agenda. We had enough large presentations for this agenda, so we'll have that at the next meeting. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Anybody have any questions for our city manager? Yeah, thank you, Ken. Move on to commissioner reports. We'll start down here on my right with Commissioner Showalter.
No report.
Commissioner Myers.
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Howard.
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Redland.
I also have nothing.
Okay, for my marriage report, I also have nothing. So with that, I will make a motion to go into Executive session, I couldn't think of the word for a second there. Executive session under the authority of TSA 754319B1 for personnel matters for non-elected personnel. I would just like the commissioners for a period of 10 minutes. Motion's on the table.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Redmond. All in favor say aye. Aye. We'll try to squeeze it in 10.
Yeah.
Can't do 10, then we'll kick you out, come back in.
Okay, sounds good.
Call this meeting back to order. With that, I would like to make a motion to go into executive session under the authority of KSA 754319B1 for personal matters for non-elected personnel. I would like the commissioners and the city manager for a period of 10 minutes.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Howard. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Can we do that next meeting, just so I can make sure we get it right for Jake, as far as how we word the bonus?
Yeah.
We good with
Sure.
that? Yeah.
That's fine.
There it is. Oh, there it is. Oh, hey. Call this meeting back to order. If we wish to offer our good city manager a bonus for his work this year, what's the proper wording I need to use on that? Yes.
I would say, provide him with a year-end bonus. You would provide it, move to approve, give him an additional bonus on top of his contract. And the amount of warning.
That's easy enough. I would like to make a motion to approve an additional bonus on top of his annual salary for the amount of $5,000 for our city manager.
That much.
I'll second that.
Yeah. A second by Commissioner Showalter. Any further discussion?
That's this year.
Into this year. Yes.
This year,
Okay, roll please.
Showalter.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Redland.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. A motion by Commissioner Redmond. Second.
That was me, guys.
Second by Commissioner Howard. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, everybody.